Hi Anurag, good afternoon. How are you?
Uh, I'm fine, Rajiv. How are you?
Good. Everyone, this is Anurag from London, and he's very kindly consented for us to record this call so that the whole community, and I don't mean just the Indian community, but the community of people who are interested in knowing more about US visas can be benefited from our conversation. Anuragji, I am going to take a few minutes just to run over the available visas. Your questions pertain to H-1B visas and how to get back into the United States, right?
So I'm not just H1B. She has more into immigration visa.
So,
Being a British citizen, I think we can come there and we don't have to invest $1 million.
okay.
So I want to do two things: A, to do business and work through the business, like some sort of a consulting entity.
That is actually very good because once I run through the visa applications and various kinds of visas, I will address your questions. And I know that a lot of people all over the world are interested. I have done two calls this morning in which this question came up repeatedly. How do I come
Hmm.
to USA to do business? Let's get started. Okay, let's begin with the presentation first. I recorded this presentation, or I'm doing it. It's this presentation should benefit business lawyers all over the world, not just American business lawyers, foreign professionals like yourself who want to come to USA, businessmen who want to come to USA, as well as human resources professionals. So it's with an eye towards anybody who is interested in knowing more about US immigration options. We are doing a quick conversation.
I
Uh,
have a question for a wider community.
Please go
The
ahead.
presentation was sent to me, but is that presentation available on your website? I know it is there on LinkedIn. You have posted it, but I don't know about if I couldn't
Um,
find it on the website.
what this actually, I posted it to SlideShare. I was waiting for us to talk. Once we finish this conversation, the whole recording with the screen recording, our conversation will go up on YouTube, which will also go up on our website.
Okay,
So you'll have a complete conversation record. Okay.
sure.
So we are always looking for two kinds of visas, which like you said, I am looking not only to come to USA temporarily, but I want to live in USA permanently. So there are two kinds of visas: non-immigrant visas, which are to visit USA temporarily. Temporarily could mean a few days to a few years. And then there is also indefinitely. There are certain visas available, and I'll come to that in a second, for UK citizens, like an E2 visa, which is a treaty investor visa, which can keep you here forever, but it doesn't give you a direct access to green card. So we look at all those options. Two kinds of visas. Temporary visas are called non-immigrant visas. A permanent visa where you want to live in USA, work here, be free to do whatever you want in terms of employment or your own business. You would look at something called an immigrant visa. Immigrant visa is also referred to in common parlance as green card. So green card is simply US permanent residence, also known as US lawful permanent residence. Um, Also note that many of these non-immigrant visas ultimately get converted through one option or another to green cards. So you come in for a temporary purpose, and many of these visas will allow you to convert to a green card eventually through one methodology or another. One thing more I want to note here: you said you have family in USA too, right?
Yes, I do. And they are U.S. citizen. They have been there for 25 years.
Well,
It's
here is the good news.
my sister.
What happens is that's not a very fast way to go, but typically people need to know that you can have a green card going in 10 different categories simultaneously. So there's no law that says you can't have multiple green card applications through employment, through brother, through a sister, through mother, through wife. All of them can be going on at the same time, and you simply get the green card that comes first. Okay. Through brothers and sisters typically takes 10, 12, 13 years. So it's not an easy or a quick way to go, but we'll look at the employment based options for you in a second. Uh, the pros and cons of non-immigrant visas. Non-immigrant visas we like because they come through very quickly. Some of these visas you can get on a walk-in, walk-out basis, like a tourist visa or a business visa. They also may cost a few $1,000s less. And at the end of this, I have some links that you can click on and go to our website. We tell you what the fees, etc., are, what the time frames are. It'll give you a good idea of what is involved. But ultimately, all of you must take a one-on-one consultation. For you, Anuragji, since you have very kindly consented to be recorded and be made publicly available, I'll spend time with you as much time as it takes to answer all your questions in lieu of a consultation. So that should help. Um, for the pros of a non-immigrant visa are they are quicker, they are cheaper, but the cons are that your stay in USA is not permanent, okay, and it does not allow you to become a US citizen. If you are a green card holder, after 5 years you can get US naturalization and become a US citizen, which has two major advantages. One, you can leave USA and go away forever and still be a US citizen. As a green card holder, you can't do that. You've got to maintain your permanent home in the United States. You can come and go for brief visits like you mostly would if you were living permanently in one place. But as a citizen, you don't have that confinement. And second thing is the right to vote. Of course, the third thing is green card. Green cards are relatively easy to revoke. If somebody gets caught up in certain crimes, they can get their green card taken away. But naturalization is much more difficult to take away. Okay, so let's go over the pros and cons of the green card. Same idea. If you have a green card, you can stay here permanently and work as you please. Um, it's very important to very quickly run over the alphabet soup of various visa options available. And once I'm done with that, then we'll talk about your particular options that apply to your situation. So you've got A visas, you've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It goes through the whole alphabet all the way to U visas. Okay, there used to be a V visa, but that kind of went away. We were very actively involved in preparation of that visa law, in fact, including the drafting of that law. But that visa has gone away. It was for spouses of U.S. immigrants. Going back to A visa. These are a little bit shorter visit than the other visas I'm going to talk about. A visas is for diplomats and for embassy staff. So they come in as long as they are working at the consulate or the embassy of their home country in USA. They are on A visa. It has its advantages and disadvantages. Just know such a visa exists. B visa, which is very commonly used. B1, B2. B1 is for visitors for business. Typically, they are given 90 days at one time to stay in USA, sometimes up to 6 months. B2 is visitors for pleasure. You want to come in for sightseeing. You come in, you're typically given 6 months. Some of these visas can be extended while you're in the United States without any problem. Some, not a good idea. The biggest problem with B1, B2 visa is this: it allows you to come and shake hands. You want to attend a conference, or you want to meet certain business associates or create business connections. You can do that, but you cannot actively generate money in the United States by yourself. That would be like taking away a job from an American worker. So that part is very tricky. And countries like UK, you have a visa waiver with the United States where you can come and visit USA for 90 days anytime you want. And if your entry is not too frequent and too long, you will be allowed to keep on coming back on that. But the restriction is the same. You're not allowed to work, but you can shake hands and make contacts. Okay. So remind me to talk to you about that option once I'm done with this whole thing. B visa is something we want to talk about. Then there's a visa called H-2B visa, which is for people from certain set of countries. These are people whose jobs require at least 2 years of experience, and they are only for seasonal or intermittent jobs. For example, if somebody is coming in just to help in the firefighting effort, or we need temporary workers to help in the stables in Kentucky. That's one example. We bring them in on H-2B visas, and they can't file green cards. So it's a very dicey visa, and it only is available for certain countries, not for all countries. It used to be for every country. J and Q visas are cultural exchange visas. J visas are used a lot by medical doctors, physicians. They are used by university professors, even students. Some students come on these kind of visas. For longer visits, even E2 visa is very frequently used. E1 is treaty trader and E2 is treaty investor. In order for us to utilize E1 and E2 visas, it is required that your country, in your case that's UK, and USA have a treaty of trade. Okay, and trade and investment. In fact, UK and USA do have this treaty. Okay, so you people who are citizens of US, UK will have the option of coming under E1, E2. And again, I'll get into that more detail with you once I'm done with this conversation. So let me just make a note of the visa that I want to address with you. B visa slash ESTA, which is temporary visa waiver. I want to address E visa with you. Then comes, I also want to talk about E3 visas, which are uniquely available only to Australian professionals. They are like H1 visas. They require a job offer of a professional nature. And I'll talk about what is a professional job in the context of H1s. It's the same discussion for Australian professionals. The great advantage of E3 visas is that they don't have any quota. H1 has a quota. Okay. Then there are F visas, which are student visas used a lot by students internationally. What that involves is the student takes admission in a school. The school issues a certain document called an I-20, which is based upon the student's ability to survive in the US financially. Some of them will include things like your scholarships, etc. So you'll take that I-20 and go and apply for your visa at the consulate. If you get the visa, you come into USA and study. And after studying, most of these students convert to H1 and then finally to green card. Okay. G visas are for international organizations, employees like United Nations, World Bank, International Monetary Fund. Some G visas, after a certain while, G visas can lead to a green card. Some can lead to a green card indirectly. Your spouses are also allowed to work. G4 visa holders are also allowed to bring in their domestic workers with them on G5 visas. Some of the things that are coming to mind that need to be known. Then there are the H1 visas, which is probably the most used visa in the United States for work purposes. H1 visa is for fashion models and professionals. I'll not cover the fashion model side, but if there are any fashion models listening in, they will know that there's an option that can be explored specifically for them. H1B visas are for professionals, including Department of Defense professionals, which is H1 designation. Um, uh, these are people who are working on Department of Defense contracts, but we are talking about H1B1 visas, which are available for those people who get a job offer from an employer in the United States to work at a professional position. Okay, a professional position and a professional job and a professional degree are all required. What is a professional degree? It's a degree in a specific professional subject. For example, if you have a degree in economics, it's a professional degree. But if you have a degree in liberal arts, like a BA from India, it's not a professional degree because it's not focused on a particular subject. Sometimes, if you don't have a degree, like a 4-year degree, you can substitute experience. So let's say I've got 3 years degree in computer science, and then I have 3 years of experience. 3-to-1 rule says for each year of college you are missing, you can substitute that with 1 year of college that you're missing with 3 years of experience. 3-to-1 rule. 1 year of college missing, 3 years of experience. 2 years of college missing, 6 years of experience. So sometimes you can qualify based upon that. The problem with H1 visas, there's a quota, and the quota gets over very quickly. If you want to apply, you've got to apply by April 1st. April 2nd, the quota is gone. And even on April 1st, there are 2 to 3 applications for every seat that's available. So there's going to be a lottery. You may get selected, or you may not get selected. Once you come here on H1, you apply for a green card. And you can also change employers under certain circumstances. There's a lot more to it, but H1B visas are for professionals who have a job offer in the United States. Then we come to L1 visas, which are intra-company transfers. If there's a company in India and or UK and there's a company in USA and they are related to each other, they can transfer some of their key employees over. The big advantage of L1 visa, which come in 2 flavors, L1A, L1B. A is for, and this also I think I want to talk to you about, Anurag. Um, L visas also I want to discuss with you in greater detail.
Sure.
That might be an option for you. So intra-company transfer is L1A is for executive and managerial employees, and L1B is for specialized knowledge employees. Again, I won't get into the details. There's a lot to it, but that also is an option that people need to think about. Um, then we have O visas, which are for people who enjoy extraordinary ability. They are people who are the top 2, 3, 4% of their profession, nationally or internationally. For example, if you are we recently did a case for a flute player from India, a bansuri player. who was Grammy nominated. We were able to get his green card, even his O1. All these visas are very quickly available to people who are um, um, nationally or internationally recognized. And the principle here is sustained national or international acclaim. Okay. Then we've got P visas for performers and artists. We've got visas for athletes also. R visas for religious workers and priests. Then we've got TN visas, Treaty National visas for Canadians and Mexicans. TN visas are also very, very good visas given 3 years at a time. And basically, you have to be a professional. There are some additional options for family-based visas like K1, K3. K1 is for fiance. If somebody, this is not strictly an employment-based visa, but if you have a fiance in USA that you want to get married to, you could look into a K1 visa. Or if you have a spouse in USA, you could look into a K3 visa and a green card. Let's go to the next slide. Processing times, I've given you a link, and this link tells you on our website, of course, there are plenty of other websites, but we have our information all in one place, how much time it takes approximately for different visas. You're always welcome to leave a message on our website. You can contact us also on Twitter. You can send us a mail. help@immigration.com is my address. Um, there are many ways to contact us. Our website has immigration.com has a contact us form as well. Um, then let's look at the fees and expenses. Also, I've given you a link. We are one of the few law firms that actually publishes our fees, and almost 100% of the cases that we do, we charge the amount that we've written. Sometimes it can be more if the case is very complicated, but I don't remember the last time we had to change our fees for somebody. They are there. They also include costs like government spending, government filing fees, etc. That's it. Now, I want to talk to you about your situation specifically. You said you had, first of all, family based option is out. Because if we have your brother or your sister apply for you, it will take them 13 years to get you your green card. And during that time, you are not allowed to come in and visit or stay in the USA just because the green card is pending. If you have an independent option like an H1, you could come on that, or an L1 or an EV visa, you could come on that. So we are not going to even look at the option through brother and sister. Let's look at your other options as a businessman. What do you do in UK right now, Rajiv?
I do strategy consulting for a large consulting firm. In fact, I have used a few visas in the past, and I took F1 visa to go to US in '97
There you go.
to get my MBA. So I have used F1 visa, and after that I was OPT for 7 8 months, and then my employer over there, JP Morgan, they gave me an H1 visa. So I was there with H1 on H1 visa for with two companies, JP Morgan and Deloitte, and then I left to USA a long time ago. So I've used a few visas over there. So I do understand something about L1 and L2 or something like that, which might be useful if if I establish a company here and start a company there again simultaneously. Then that will take a year for me to make that transition.
Very good.
If I want to do it immediately, I believe I can do it with E1, E2, or I can look at the option of O visa also. I'm not sure whether I qualify for that, but I
So
have been in leadership
send me
roles.
your resume. I'll take a look at it, and I can always call you back, or we can do another Skype conversation. This time, a private one and not a public one.
Okay.
I can go over your resume with you and see if O visa is an option. Let's look at the E2 visa option for you, treaty investor.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting visa because let's look at what the criteria are. First of all, you must invest some money in the United States, not 500,000 or a million like we do for investor visas.
That's right.
Okay, but some money. And what is that some money, and how we determine that? Well, that's highly individual. If you are going to buy a steel plant in the United States, you might need to invest $30 million. Okay, but if you are doing a consulting practice, okay, so let's say you want to come to USA to establish a consulting practice,
That's what I want to do. Yeah.
it does fall under the E2 treaty ambit. It can be done. And the amount of investment could be as small as 50,000, 60,000, or 100,000. And basically, it's your money, it's staying with you. The only thing you would do is you would probably incorporate yourself, and you would capitalize that company with, let's say, 100, 150, whatever the most amount you can afford is, and make that the capital of the company. um, Rent yourself an office. It doesn't have to be something overlooking the Bay Bridge in San Francisco. It can be in a small village. We don't really care about that. And basically try to make a case to the government that you should be given an E2 visa. Good point about E2 visa is if you're outside the United States like you are, we don't have to pre-process anything with USCIS. We basically prepare a paperwork, and you can do it yourself, to be honest. It doesn't require a lawyer necessarily. But for visas that are consulting based, I would probably want you to get a lawyer, because there are some technical issues that are involved that will come up which have to be dealt with squarely. I'm not confident that you'll be able to get this visa, but it's worth a shot. And why do we like this visa? Because there's no investment. Now, so the first test is that there has to be some money. Second, the money must be substantial. Very tricky issue. What is substantial? Okay. Substantial is contextual. So if you are buying an asset whose um, purchase value is $10 million and you put in 2 million, it's probably substantial. Okay, but if you are buying an asset that's worth 500,000 and you put in 200,000, the government could say we need a little bit more money in this. So they look at the total cost of acquisition and how much money you are putting in proportion to each other. In your case, there's no cost of acquisition. You are the acquisition. It's your head.
Sure.
Okay. So in the books, it's a cited example from many years ago that even with $50,000, a consulting company were able to start an E2 visa in the US. In your case, I would say 50,000 is not a good idea because that was way back in the 1970s. Now probably we should start with 100, 150, 200, whatever you can put in as a capitalization of the company, which would, and the expenses of the company are covered, basically including your own salary. Okay, you'll have to talk with a CPA in USA to see what is tax-wise the best way to set this up. But I can talk about immigration law. You do not want my advice on tax laws. I barely passed my exam in tax. Okay. I suck at taxes. When you start putting figures next to any problem, my mind goes to sleep. I do not do well with figures. Okay. In fact, my school teachers used to tell me that, Rajiv, creativity is a very good thing, but not when it comes to math problems. We give you a problem and ask you the same question 10 times, you give us 10 different answers. So tax is not my forte. We will put you in touch with CPAs. You can talk with CPAs, see what they suggest tax-wise. But that's something to look into. Okay, so go ahead.
Consulting is a business where I don't have to buy a land or a manufacturing unit
Correct.
like a
Absolutely.
steel company.
Absolutely.
So all money I have to put it in a bank, right?
Exactly. In the
Yeah.
name of the company.
In the
Because
name of the company.
because
Yes, sure.
and even there, what I can suggest is, instead of putting the money directly in, you can put it in an escrow account. That the escrow will be released to my own corporation only if I get the visa approved.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do it that way too. That if you don't want to capitalize your own company, although I don't see any reason for it, a CPA can tell us better if there's a problem with that. Because do I have to pay money to put the money into my own company, and do I have to pay money again to the government in taxes when I take the money out? That's something the CPA can tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that would be one way to look at the situation. E2 visa for countries like UK, whose citizens actually have an active business and want to do active business, is a good option if they qualify. We recently did an E2 visa for a liquor store business. Okay. Before that, we did an E2 visa for a motel. So E2 visas are used by all kinds of companies for all kinds of purposes. Another time, we did an E2 visa for a company that brought in its own machinery from Canada. Okay, so that was considered to be an investment as well, because it's not only cash but cash equivalents like cash and in kind investment. So investment has to be substantial. Third thing, investment must be an investment, not just subsistence. So if you are putting in, let's say, $300,000 in a business, I'll come to your particular case in a second. But let's say you're putting in $300,000 in a business, um, and you are taking home only 50,000 each year, and that's your survival money. When we look at your budget, it actually shows that you need $50,000 to survive. Government is not likely to consider that to be enough of an investment. If, on the other hand, along with 50 you get 20 more, then it's an investment because you're getting a return on your investment. Those are the items they look at. Now, some of these items are not going to readily and easily um, transform and apply to a consulting practice. We have to look at it a little differently. And that's why consulting cases are going to be a lot more difficult to make, because we're not talking about dealing in goods.
Sure.
However, there is no law that says you cannot do it. If, in fact, on the other hand, there is actual cases and there is law where consulting companies have started their own business. Okay.
But my question is, um, you're talking about some money. You said 50K was good amount a few decades ago. But today also for consulting job, to start a consulting job, all you need is an office, a phone, a fax machine, and an email, Wi-Fi facility. That's it.
I agree with
So
you.
50K still looks very high.
I would say it's worth trying. Okay, it's worth trying. And here is the good news: if you go to the U.S. consulate website,
Mhm.
and you go to E2 visa, they actually have detailed documentation. They tell you how to prepare the case. If you
Sure.
follow those instructions, okay, as long as you state the truth, tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, even if the visa is denied, you can come to us and we can step in and take a look at it and see if we can do better than you can. Okay. So
Mhm.
when we work with small businesses, we try to save them every penny that we can. Our approach to practice is very simple. We don't want to kill you and take your money. We want to grow something with you. Okay.
Sure.
Our clients go back 10, 20, 30 years. Some of the clients that we dealt with back in 1993 when I started my own practice are still our clients. And the reason is our approach is we are not butchers or hunters. We are peasants. We like to grow things. So we would like to save you money, and we would what I suggest very strongly is download the paperwork on the E2 visa. Each consulate has its own little twists. See what their processes are, see what their procedures are, and like I said, you've been so kind that you let us record this conversation. I'll always be available to help you with any answers that you get stuck with. If something you don't understand, drop me an email. I can call you. We can Skype, or you can log into a community conference. We can talk about it. I'll be happy to answer your questions for you. Try it. If you can get it, great. If not, as long as you've not said anything which is not completely truthful, we can always try to bail you out and try
Sure.
doing it ourselves. Maybe do it differently. Okay, that's one way to
Just
do it.
to add, you said you have a client who has been with you for a long time. In 2001, I had some visa issue in the US. I joined a community call, and one of the answer helped me. Uh, so you
Anurag,
might not remember, but still,
I won't remember, but
it
I,
is.
I feel very old when people tell me things like that. 2001, my God.
So 13, 14 years ago, you did help me with one of the calls,
Very good.
which was just like this.
I really appreciate it. Many times it happens. See, all these things, is Skype and all are new. Before that, I used to be a voice on the telephone. That's everybody had only.
Sure.
So I would run into people in parties, in get-togethers, on the hill, in conferences that we had worked with, or like you, been able to be of some assistance. And it was just the nicest surprise to meet all these folks. I was telling somebody yesterday, I said, I feel very blessed. There is not a city in this country, in the United States, a major city. I mean, I don't think villages we have clients, but every major city in the United States, we have clients. It feels so good. And these are not just clients, these are because they're very smart people like you who are very good in their profession. And I like to believe that we are as good in ours as you folks are in yours. So we are all equals. It ends up becoming a partnership and a friendship rather than just being a
Sure.
attorney client. It's a very good feeling.
Now, my other question is, suppose I deposit some money in an account in the US on the name of my company. I register a company there. I'm planning to do it tomorrow, in fact, after this call. When I go to register a company, do I have to choose a particular state? Like people advise me, Delaware is the best state to establish a company because of tax purpose. And also, in my situation, If I establish a company in Delaware, I can start my business in any state. The way I want to start, I'm not sure whether it qualify for E1 or E2 visa or not. E2 visa or not is get a visa first, then look for a contract for myself, and then grow the business in that company by hiring people. So that will involve again coming to you if I want to hire somebody who is not a green card holder or a US citizen.
Sure.
Can I do that? And if I do that, is something that you can help
Of
in the
course.
future.
Of course.
The first question is whether I can use my approach of getting a job first for myself, a contract role, but if you lead a business through my company and then hire more people in the same company and grow that consult. Because sometimes you grow consulting by getting inside the door and then trying to get more consultants.
Anurag, I don't want to give you the impression that this is going to be easy. In case I have given you that impression, let's get away from that for a moment. Because we are dealing with concepts that involve intellectual work and intellectual property rather than out and out goods and widgets. Okay.
Yeah.
So, first of all, one of the principles of an E2 visa is we don't want you to buy a job. Okay. So when you, in your case, what I anticipate at least being part of your case would be a very good business plan. And a very good business plan shows study, analysis, and that's your forte. You are an MBA. It should show that you've studied the market and you have some very good data to back up your plan. In by the end of this year, I anticipate having grown this much. By the end of this year, I anticipate having done this. And all through the plan, it should show that you're not just coming in to buy a job. You're coming in to make an investment and make a company out of it, which does more than just allow you a subsistence. That's one point to remember. Can you do it? Can you start looking? I do not know. It's as long as you have a solid business plan, I would like for you to have at least one contract in hand. And the contract in hand should be enough to make you more than just a living.
Definitely, it will definitely more than what my living
Okay.
expenses would be.
No, see, in the meantime, you can visit on a visa waiver, shake hands, appear for interviews.
I did it last year twice.
Good.
Twice, I got my British citizenship last year only. Before that, I was on B1, B2 visa for 10 years. So I visit US almost every year. Last year, I went there twice. And I met a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of family who are in the similar business and who are willing to cooperate. Because sometimes in this sort of business, suppose if I have a requirement from a certain bank, suppose of Korea, but I am not able to get enough consultants. So you go and partner with other companies and try to provide a solution together.
I think
Some
that
solution
can
might
be
be
done.
process related, some might be technology related.
I think that can be done. Look, one part of it you can do even on a visa waiver. I'll explain to you how I would approach this. And maybe this makes sense and maybe it doesn't. But let's explore this a little bit. So what we want to do is we know there are contracts out there that we can bid for and get. And let's say they are contracts for project or consulting or developing something. You can actually come in on a visa waiver, set up the whole infrastructure, talk with the companies who can help you provide the necessary intellectual property for the project, or take it with you to UK and get people there, or take it to India or Russia or anywhere else where you can find the people who can do the job if it can't be done in USA. Bear in mind one thing, you don't need an E2 visa for all of that. Okay, so let me take this one step at a time. Before I get to that point, there's a caution here. There is a law in the United States that does not allow you to discriminate against US workers.
Sure, definitely not.
So I have seen companies who hired, for example, outsourced their recruitment function to India, and the Indian companies place ads in the newspaper saying, we are looking for H1 people and F1 people. It seemed to imply that they are not looking for US workers. And that's illegal. Okay. So when we look for employees, we've got to be an equal opportunity employer. We've got to give everybody a fair shake. Okay, one thing. Now, going back to your first question, where to incorporate? This is a very interesting problem. In UK, as well as in India, we have one corporate law. In India, I think it was called Indian Companies Act of 1950, if memory serves. It's the same corporate law all over the country. Not so in the United States. In USA, states, each one of them has its own corporate law. For example, federal law I can practice, immigration law I can practice anywhere, or provide advice to clients from anywhere. But state law, such as corporate law, contracts, I can only practice where I'm admitted. I'm admitted in DC and Virginia. That's all I can do. Most states I can waive in. If I've been practicing 5 years, I can waive in and get my license. But remember, each state has its own law. Now, most big companies are registered either in Delaware, New York, or New Jersey. There are several reasons for it. One reason is when the company gets bigger, the incumbency, the executive slate that's managing the company, the president, the vice president, the secretary, the treasurer, these laws are very pro incumbency. It's not easy to dislodge people. And the directors, it's not easy to dislodge them. That's my understanding. I'm no expert in corporate law. In another lifetime, I used to be. Um, Additionally, the laws are very clear. Sometimes, when the laws are lying a lot in the gray areas, it can become very difficult to do proper planning. But for these states, it's easier to plan. In USA, you can be registered in Delaware as a corporation and do business in Arkansas. All you have to do is, and you don't really have to do it, but it's a good idea to qualify to do business in Arkansas, which means pay $25, $30 or whatever, and $10, $100 at the most, and you become qualified to do business there. If you don't qualify, you just can't sue anybody as a corporation. If you want to sue anybody as a corporation, you have to then qualify and then do business. So in other words, it doesn't matter where you incorporate, except again, there's as you get bigger, you might need to reconsider this. Some states like to incorporate in, I believe, Nevada, where the corporate documents are kept secret. They're not just available publicly. I could be wrong about this, but that's my understanding. And they also don't have any large corporate taxation structure, so you don't have to pay a lot of tax on as a corporation. Individual taxes, of course, federal taxes are there. You can't get away from that. Okay, so where to incorporate, you don't need to worry too much. I think you can start wherever you want. In today's world, if I were to incorporate, the first thing I look for is a URL. If I'm calling my company XYZ Co, do I have xyzco.com available? That's the first thing I would do, right? And it's kind of like putting the chicken before the egg, or the cart before the horse, because I want to make sure I've got the URL and then incorporate the company. So first I look at the URL, then I look at the name availability. I would go to the corporate office of that particular, and you can do this all on the phone and on the internet. See if this name is available, and if that name is available, then incorporate.
Well, I have done all those things already, and that's why I came to three states, as you rightly said, Delaware, New York, and New Jersey. I was about to thinking of buying a property in Jersey City, dropped the idea because I thought I'm not sure, but then I'm tied to Jersey. So somebody suggested go to Delaware, incorporate that. You can work you can then have business anywhere in the U.S. It will be much easier compared to incorporating it in any other states.
There's only one thing. Many states, and I'm not authorized to speak, nor is it ethical for me to speak to laws of any other state other than DC and Virginia. But just check into that. Most states will require you to have a registered agent in the state where you're incorporated. Okay, and there are professional registered agents. For a couple $100 a year, they'll act as your registered agent. What that means is, if somebody wants to sue you as a corporation, they just serve the registered agent in that state, and the registered agent will forward you the documents. We used to use a company called CT Corporation. I think they're still around. C as in Charlie, T as in Tom. Pretty big company, pretty reliable, but I'm sure there are plenty others. So we used to use them a lot when I was doing corporate work, and I know they're still around because somebody I referred to CT Corporation, I think incorporated just a couple of years ago. But I haven't been in touch with that area of the law for a while. Your CPA can also help you make that decision.
Yeah. No, I think the technology has gone a bit further. Once I incorporate, say, in Delaware and pay some extra few $100, $300, $400, they'll give you an office address also, which will look like I have an office in Delaware. No, I don't.
That I know.
And if I pay another $100, $200, they'll also have a secretary for me who will take call on my behalf as if I'm in the office and forward all the details to me through email or through other phone. So technology has gone a bit further. So I just said I have to have an office.
No,
So I
that I
don't have to
know.
invest a lot
That
of money.
they're called executive offices and executive suites. No, I know that, but
Yeah.
this is a little different. They actually required some person to be. I guess I don't think they have to be a resident of that state. You can look into that, but you can incorporate anywhere. If you're a small corporation, you should also look into an LLC, limited liability corporation. That may be a better structure for you. You should
Mhm.
also, these are some of the things that you want to be sure of. Because
Mhm.
if you are a non-resident of the United States, not a green card holder or a U.S. citizen, you may not be able to get tax advantage of Chapter C corporations. This much I know. Chapter C corporation is advantageous from a tax perspective. Why? Because normally when corporation makes $100, they pay taxes on it. When
Mhm.
they give you that money either as salary or as any other kind of income consulting, you pay taxes on it again. So you're
Mhm.
doing double taxation. If you're a Chapter C corporation, all the money, even though you're a corporation, you have protection from liability. For tax purposes, you're treated as an individual. So you don't pay taxes twice. So
Sure,
LLC might be a better structure for smaller companies.
sure. Yeah, it might be a to start with, and once I get investor visa, hopefully move there, I can always change the type of company. It's not a big deal, I think.
Yeah. Plus, when the
So
amounts we are dealing with is still in hundreds of and thousands and below a million, we don't really. I don't think it really is that much of a difference. But when you start getting into bigger amounts, which I hope to see you soon, then I can send you big fat bills also. Then that I think at that point you might have to restructure. And it is my understanding restructuring is not that difficult.
sure, sure. Um, and how long does it take to get investor visa, E2 visa? If I'm on,
Different for different places. Depends upon their workload. Depends upon how efficient they are. It can be as little as a week. It can be as much as a month, 2 months, depending upon how busy they are. But it's not years.
yeah, I checked the website of US consulate in London. I think they're talking about 2 weeks, but I need to prepare very well before that. My
Yes.
business case.
Yes.
I should have a company registered with an office address, and I should also show that the people are getting interest in me and the company. Now, the interest in me showing is very easy because if I put my resume there, I know I'm going to get a lot of traction, hopefully,
Good.
because of the experience and whatever I have. And as interest from other companies, I have people who are getting into similar business from my friend circle and the people I know, and they are willing to cooperate with me in this area. So that's one way I can show that people are interested in me. I can also start approaching to some banks and start trying to sell the consulting offerings that we have, myself or collectively with the other partner companies. And that way I can show interest that, hey, I'm doing it. There's a company in Jersey, New Jersey. They are my sister concern, our partner companies because we are working together. And then I can show some traction by 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 showing some documentation that okay.
Look at what the UK paperwork, the US consulate in UK requires for paperwork. Look at that first. Download the paperwork. Typically, these are PDF files. See what they are suggesting. Um, the good news is that even if the visa gets denied for some reason, we can always refile. The visa denial is not a permanent bar. In fact, it's not even a temporary bar. If you get denied today, I can apply again with some fresh paperwork or even the same paperwork tomorrow.
Mhm.
So that's why I
So if the
said,
visa
as
gets
long as you tell the truth, even if you get denied, we can take over and try to help. Um,
uh,
it's not that big a deal for us because we deal with cases like this all the time where there's a denial either from other lawyers or from individuals themselves. We step in and we take care of it.
so even if it get denied, is it a big setback for me for future visit to US on visa waiver program or applying for L1 H1?
It shouldn't be. L1H1, absolutely no issue. See, L1H1s are dual intent visas. They allow you to have even an intent to immigrate when you apply for H1 and L1. Tourist visa does not. Tourist visa does not allow you to have an immigrant intent. Student visa does not. J1 visa does not. But some visas, like L visa, H visa, O visa, even E visas, allow you to have immigrant intention. So the fact that you showed an intention to come on another visa is no problem for H or L. Can it be a problem for your ESTA entry, for your visa waiver entry? It should not be because you've not created any. You've such a good record of coming and going and even living here for a long term, then obeying the laws and going back. I would be surprised if they give you any hassle.
Okay, okay. And in future, suppose I come on E2 visa, in future, can I move to H1 or L1 if the
Yes.
things are not working this way?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can. You
Yeah.
can convert from E to H, E to L, even E to a green card, E to investor. You can readily change within the United States.
Second option is I apply for investor visa. At the same time, since I have a company here, if that doesn't work, next year I can apply for L visa,
You can.
intra-company transfer.
Absolutely. And
Yeah, yeah.
we love L1A visas. But talk with me before you make those firm plans because L1A visas have their own issues. But L1A visas we love. It's the closest kept open secret of the United States that if you're a businessman with a good amount of business presence in your own country, let's say you've got 30, 40, 50 people working with you, at least 5, 10 professionals that you're supervising, you can actually come to the United States very, very easily with minimum investment. There really is no investment amount required. All we require is you have a business in the United States. You can even buy a company. Remember, you must have worked for your own company for at least 1 year as a manager or executive employee.
Yeah, sure.
But the relationship does not have to be more than 1 year old. You could buy a company tomorrow and transfer yourself on an L1A. And the company in UK and the company in USA don't have to be in the same business.
Sure.
This yesterday I had a consultation with a company in India who are a big restaurant, and they want to buy a company in USA and use L1A. They can. Their concern was, do I have to be a restaurant business in USA? I said, no, you can be any business. You can buy a consulting company, you can buy a real estate company, and transfer yourself over.
Sure. Sure.
And L1A visas lead to a green card under EB1C category, which is the fastest category of employment based green cards. EB1C green cards can be as little as a few months to a year. You can get your green card, you're done.
Yeah, I know somebody who went on to US and L1A visa, and then because that person is managing a few people outside US, so became a global manager, and on that basis, that person got a green card very easily.
Actually,
Something called a
they disregard global management. They only want to see how many people you are managing in USA. It's very interesting. So, but again, don't worry about that. When you get to that point, talk with me.
Sure, sounds good. And if I am lucky enough to get immigration visa and come there, can I hire people in the US,
Yes.
both green card citizen as well as because I'm not going to discriminate against anybody based on their status. Anybody who is good enough to work. So would I be allowed to hire people and process their H1?
Absolutely. You can even hire people on E2 visas and process their H1s or OPTs. You can have people working on OPTs or even CPT, curricular practical training. So yeah, as
I
long
see.
as you're an employer in the United States, you can pretty much do what every employer does.
I see. Okay, sounds great. Well, is there anything else you would like to give me as a suggestion before I start putting my papers
No,
together?
I feel a certain sense of excitement whenever I talk with young businesses because there is so much you guys can do and so much there is to be done. Um, like you said, your vertical expertise is in banking, and I know we have companies who do a lot of banking work and they are doing consulting for banking. There's a lot of work here, no doubt about that. So, with all my excitement, I wish you the very best, and we are here. You know that we have community conference calls. Anybody can log in, use Skype to log in and talk to us. Every 2 weeks we talk to people, and we've been doing it for years. So no
Sure,
problem.
it is good talking to you again after a gap of 14, 15 years. That was helpful, and this is really helpful as well, I believe.
Good luck, Anurag. Call me back if you have any questions. Okay.
Thanks, Rajiv.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Every other Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we host free community conference calls. Everybody is welcome to join. Some people post questions ahead of time. You can take membership in our forums. All of the details are there on our website, immigration.com. You can take membership ahead of time, and you know, it's instantaneous. It happens right away. And post your questions beforehand, or you can just log in. The phone number and all are provided: 202 800 8394, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time every other Thursday. We have free apps for both Apple iOS platform for your iPhones and iPads, as well as for Android. Just look for immigration.com, immigration.com, the period dot, and the application should show up.